So, welcome viewers to our next episode of the Shift podcast, where we've been bringing experts from various companies to understand their journey towards a digital key account management. Today, my guest is Jennifer Smith Byers. She's Vice President Strategic Accounts at TaskUs. So, Jennifer, really nice to have you with us here today.
Thank you so much, Karthik, and I'm really pleased to be able to spend the time with you today.
Absolutely, looking forward to that. So Jennifer, to start off, give us a bit of a backgrounder of what TaskUs does and your role as the Vice President of Strategic Accounts.
Sure. I mean, TaskUs is a digital outsourcer and I'm really focused on high growth technology companies. So, thinking about digital is really core to our DNA. For our clients, we think about how digital initiatives can really rapidly and effectively incorporate operational innovations and efficiencies in order to generate value for them. And we're always looking for digital solutions for looking at how we manage our accounts. So really, we focus on large technology companies, and digital is really thinking about what they do and how they go about their business, and that's how we want to support them.
Great. So, according to a Gartner study, about 65% of CSOs stated that increasing revenues from their key accounts is going to be a key priority moving forward. And we have seen post-pandemic that digital is at the core of all functions right now. So, just wanted to understand what's been the journey at TaskUs adopting a digital way for key account management.
Sure. I think, we're, again, as I mentioned, very fortunate that we have very large technology companies as key clients. And as we continue to grow with our accounts, both small and large, we really had to focus and look at our overall approach in terms of how we're supporting our clients' business. And any company that's able to secure large accounts know that you need to continue to foster those accounts, not only in order to grow them, but also to come maintain them. And those are key to our success and continued growth as a business. And we also know that large accounts are very complex, and winning business really takes, a really kind of strategic approach to doing that. But kind of stepping back, why digital? Many of us in sales know the importance of account planning. Account plans were traditionally created, once a year. They get reviewed by across the executive team, whether in the account side or in the product side. And we would go about executing on our plans. But I think in this, dynamic world we're in right now, plans change very quickly. And in the previous case, when you had PowerPoints and things like that, you didn't go about making the updates regularly. You might update them mid-year, or you might not ever update them at all. And so I think it really does take a think about, what is the benefit of digital? And so for us, it really provided us huge benefits. We were already heavy users of Salesforce, so that's how we thought about our accounts or opportunities. So having DemandFarm as a digital tool is really that natural extension. And I think the big thing is when you're looking at something digital, it's that static versus dynamic. You don't have the slides to manage, update, and it really changes the way you think about large accounts and how do you go about penetrating them. Having that integrated, simple approach makes you think through all the steps. It's a step-by-step flow, thinking about the strategy, thinking about our client relationships, how do we align our focus, and really growth opportunities with them. And I think the tool also makes sure every account owner uses the same approach. And that flexible living plan is really something that can be shared across the organization. So it's not just the account team. Others can easily look at it and make, and also I think the simple updates. As we know, the world is very dynamic. If you listen to quarterly earnings from, one of your accounts, you can quickly find out that something happened and they're going to change and shift their strategy. And that may cause you to evaluate our approach. If someone new comes in the organization, how do you need to make sure we map out those players? So having that all digitally with also, I think in a remote environment where everybody's working across the world, basically being able to go in a tool, having everybody be able to look at it at any time is really, a huge benefit.
Great. So while moving to this digital route, I'm sure there are a lot of factors that you had to consider, because this is a huge shift from the traditional way of doing it to bringing in a digital tool and then managing the key account route. So, what were some of those factors which you considered?
Yeah, I think, if I step back, I think any organization thinking about moving to a digital tool, it's really think about why. Is it the right step for your organization? Do you have the right maturity level and, frankly, discipline to leverage a tool? And then do you have the executive buy-in across the organization? So for our case, it was very simple to ensure adoption because our chief commercial officer was a really a heavy advocate of us and really tried and drove the benefits across the organization. I think another thing, people should think about is, are their accounts growing in complexity? Do you really have that strategic view or key to your company's plans? Are your clients ones that their businesses are constantly shifting? And then, as I said earlier, I think in today's world, every customer client business is going through a change, a transition of some sort, and that need to keep that dynamic planning approach is really critical. And then I think the other thing is you need to have the right team to help drive the transformation. You need to have those champions, and then you also need to make sure you really have it integrated into your existing tools and ensure you get the right training and support across the organization and the account team so they really use it.
Great. But making this shift, I'm sure, would have come with its set of challenges as well. Because anytime
Yeah.
that you want to make any change, there are a bunch of challenges which anyone has to encounter. So what challenges did you actually encounter while making this shift?
Yeah, and before I go there, I think one of the things that, I always think about in any tool, and this really comes from a past role where I led a sales operations team for a very large company. And when you look to put a new tool or process, you really need to think about the impact on the customer face time or the client face time, and make sure we weren't adding more internal steps or processes or procedures that will pull the account team away from spending that valuable time building relationships with their client. And so anything that we do, you really have to think about what is the impact on the face time of the clients. So it's not just about going the tool. And so you have to kind of think through that transition and making sure that what the tool is, it's adding value. So some of the challenges that we incorporated first was integration into some of our other corporate tools, particularly our financial tool. One of the benefits of DemandFarm is it can pull in so you can get real-time updates of where you're at, revenue, tracking against your plan and budget for the year. We were changing our financial tool at the same time. So that was took us a little bit time to get that all integrated together. We also, because we weren't digital, we had a lot of things that were built up over time in terms of different product names, different solutions names, and we had to decide, which ones we were going to go with going forward. And so we had a clean kind of stepping into the tool with new product families, new product names, such that everybody could use it and kind of have a consistent approach when you start pulling up at the macro level at looking across the account. So mapping those took some time, making sure we took the old things that were already opportunities and things that were already generating revenue and mapping those into the new product names. I would say training wasn't a challenge, but for us, we rolled it out over a period of like a month and a half, so that we didn't have everybody go through a long training time. We just did little snapshots of 30 minutes, maybe 40 minutes of training to bring everybody along at the right pace. So maybe it took us a little bit longer rolling it out, but we also thought that was a way that people could try, practice, then come back and ask about that particular segment. So for example, building an organization chart, what issues did you have? What questions do you have the next week? They could bring to the table. Or as I'm building out my white space, how do I do that if I came up with a question? So really being able to do that. And I think the other thing, and I think this is with really anything, it's you have to expect what you inspect, right? So if the leadership is not really driving it and looking at it, then you're going to get some people will do a very detailed plan, others won't. And so I think that's always a challenge. And so we had some of those that maybe weren't the early adopters that had to be pulled along to start using the tool before they actually showed value, because there is that setup time. So getting everything set up and everything does take some time and investment. But once you get there, it's really, the benefit is that the ability to have the flexibility, change, update, and really kind of spend your time not updating charts, but thinking more strategically about your account.
So I think, like the success of any change initiative depends on the foundation that you're laying for it. And I think that was very beautifully laid out at TaskUs, and now you're reaping the benefits. But while we talk about some of these challenges, when you actually encountered it, I'm sure you had to champion this a lot more internally to, like you said, getting the leadership buy-in and belief in what is being implemented there will reap rewards for them is very crucial. So how did you go about championing this within the organization?
Yeah, so one of the things we did, we built kind of a core team of people. So those were our advocates that would be both helping in the implementation, but also being the gurus, kind of talking about the benefits of the solution. So we kind of had three major areas that we focused on. One is requirements. So in any tool, your language that you use in your organization may be slightly different than what is the standard one. So we worked to make sure that the requirements were aligned and that they made sense to us. So we weren't implementing something that would people like, wait a minute, we don't call it that in our organization, we call it this. So, simple things, but those types of things can, drive the naysayers about any kind of new tool. So that's really critical. We also were beta testers. So I think, being able to test it in a sandbox environment. So having this team of advocates test it, try out things before we said, okay, it's ready to roll out to the organization was key. So we were able to just work through some of those issues, anything that we thought wasn't working right, or be able to explain it. And then, as I said, we're the super users then. And so we were the champions. And so we helped do training. We were there. So if anybody had questions, just come to us. We'll be able to easily answer it. You can look back at your training that we recorded, but just come to one of our super users and we'll be happy to jump in. And again, because it's digital, it's a tool, we all have access to everybody's information, so we can go in and easily help that. So I think that's really, was important for us to do it, but I think it's really, for any change initiatives, you have to have the champions. And then lastly, as you said, having senior leadership support and approach is just super critical for the success.
Yeah, so true. So you did touch upon some of the benefits which you've as an organization which you've leveraged using this digital route. So if you were to pick some of those points and share it with the user, so what are some of the benefits that you're seeing with them taking this approach of digital key account management?
Okay. One of the ones, and maybe this is kind of a simple one, but for me, it was a kind of a aha moment, is we had a new chief operating officer join the company. And we wanted to introduce him to, the key accounts across the organization. So we didn't do anything other than leverage DemandFarm. So we used the grandstand feature, walked them through the accounts. These are key people we meet with. These are the our strengths, opportunities, threats, weaknesses. These are the areas we're going after. And we just really used everything in DemandFarm tool. And there was no extra prep. There wasn't anything that caused, us to spend a lot of extra time preparing charts for a new executive. So I think that really saw the benefit, but also, I think it just reestablished the benefit, for us as a team, thinking about, how valuable it was to be able to kind of simply walk through and share that information. I think the other benefit is really just consistency in format and content. So it's straightforward. It really allows us to, spend the time. So easy ways when leadership changes, you can go in and update. I mentioned kind of that accountability. So I think it is an easy way to drive that accountability, because it's really easy to go in and ask some questions. Is how well do they really understand their clients? What's their relationships? Who are the buyers? Who's driving the decisions? Where is their white space? What are their action plans to go after that white space? So it really provides a way for it's both inspection, but also, allows you to ask those questions and strategize with members of your team. So I think having it laid out that way really allows you to do it. The other piece I really like is the client meeting feature, where you can really see where you're meeting within the organization and what's your breadth and depth within those groups. And we, in a very complex organization, you have many meetings with clients. But it allows you to kind of break it down by each, I'll use the term buying center, but each of those buying centers within there, and be able to really see, what are we meeting with? Do we need anything more? Do we have our executive sponsor set up to meet with people?
Yeah.
So I think that's another benefit. And I think the other piece that's really helpful is the ability to assign tasks for others. So as I'm an account person, I'm trying to work on something, but I need help. And I can then assign tasks to other members of my team or other members in the organization to help me get to where I need to be. So we all know that selling is not a solo sport. It's really a team sport, and you need the support of your organization to be successful. So I think the ability to kind of use a variety of those features it's been beneficial to me, and I believe it's been beneficial for TaskUs overall.
That's really nice to hear. So Jennifer, my last question would be, there are a lot of companies out there who are still in that dilemma whether they should move the digital route, and if they go that path, what if things don't work out, or how do we go about championing it within the organization and leverage those benefits? So, basis your journey so far, what are some learnings that you would like to share with the audience out there, so that it can enable them to make that shift?
Yeah, I think, one is obviously the leadership really plays a huge role in making that shift. Is they need to understand the value of driving it and looking at the bigger picture and weighing those benefits to the organization. And really, they need to obviously spearhead this change. And I think when I think back, just in the dynamic environment we're in, having the ability to be able to quickly adjust your plans as easily to fit what your client's doing, I think that's really critical. And having a digital tool really helps that be able to do that effectively. I think at TaskUs, we also look at ways to be innovative and looking at how do we do things that smooth out processes. And I think having a digital tool simplifies a lot of the processes. Someone new coming in the organization can quickly pick up an account because it's already established. If I change accounts within the organization, I can easily do that because it's already laid out well. And so I think there's a value in just having a smooth process. And I think sometimes that's hard to measure for leaders, but I think think about how quickly it takes to onboard a new person or, quickly do things. So I think, looking at those benefits are a critical piece. And then lastly, I think, step back and again, TaskUs, it's kind of looking at do more with less. So shifting to digital really allows us to focus and spend times on the right things versus a lot of other, unnecessary things. So being efficient and productive with a simple tool, I think, is another thing to think about. If they don't have, I think for us, because we use Salesforce so much, is that integration was, again, a natural extension. So I think that was really critical. So I think, as people look across their tools, is any way that you can pull things and integrate it together is really valuable to how you run and drive your business. And in our dynamic environment we're all living in, I think that's really the most critical thing for leaders to think about.
Sure. So Jennifer, the takeaway for me from this conversation is one, for this digital approach to key account management. I think it's an inevitable move. People will have to make that shift if they need to still stay relevant. Second, I think laying the foundations is very important so that it sees the kind of results that you are envisaged for it. Having a good leadership buy-in is very crucial so that they believe in it and give all the support for it to move forward. And like you beautifully put, sales is not a solo game but a team game. And doing more with less is what a digital tool can enable people to leverage those benefits out there. And I think with these inputs and insights that you have shared, I'm sure a lot of audience out there would be able to make that shift and adopt a digital way for key account management.
Yeah, and Karthik, I think, kind of the last thing I think, as I thinking about for digital account management is make sure the partner that you're choosing with a digital tool has the team that's really ready there to support you. So again, as you think about any of that client relationship, have that advocate for you as the person that you're going to from the vendor perspective, and build that relationship and ensure that they're a trusting and very experienced partner. And I think that's the one value that we got from working closely with your organization, Karthik, is we had people that were very responsive and supportive. And I think that really helps, make that transition or that shift really effective.
And we are glad, and we really love working with TaskUs. So I absolutely love that conversation, Jennifer. Thanks a lot once again for sharing these insights.
Sure.
It was really nice having you with us here today.
Thank you so much, and all the best to you and your team.
Thank you.
Thank you.